Hello, everybody. Is anyone already out there? Let me find out how this goes. Welcome to the usual breakfast productivity thing where I try to actually do something useful and usually manage to not do that much, but you know. And let's see if anyone is actually here. I'm pretty sure there's a chat thing going on somewhere. if only I look long enough. Here we go. All right. All right. I can hear myself. No one is here so far. That is totally fine. It is, after all, well, 8 in the morning. This is not a time where people should be awake. Yeah. I did. Yeah. I mean, the plan is to actually write notes in the first sprint. Obviously, do the usual thing, but also make like a structure for some videos. I have thumbnails for 3 videos, so I'd better start recording some of them. So there's actual videos out there, and those will be on Palo Alto by Malcolm Harris and on The Sunken Land Begins to Rise Again by M. John Harrison and Cahokia Jazz by Francis Spufford. So that is going to happen today. I mean, not all videos today, but you know. And yeah, that's roughly the plan for today. There might be other stuff. I mean, obviously, I'll try to write some in the second sprint. Let's see how much of that I will get done. But, slowly but surely we're moving to some place there. Beyond that, I guess I have a number of emails I need to read through. I need to get some stuff done in that regard. I don't know. It's probably also just like the time of year, like this, like end of November is always like weird. It's not fully holiday season yet. But it got like super cold and windy and rainy the last couple of days. It's like very strong winds and first rain. And yesterday was like the beginning of snow, but obviously not. It wasn't cold enough for it to actually stay on the ground. So it was just slush when it came down. Hey Chadia, how you doing? While I complain about the weather, which is, I guess, the thing you're supposed to do in Northern Europe at this point in time. No, it's certainly. I mean, I like snow. In theory, it's not exactly the best kind of weather to be out if you're blind and have a stick, because snow does kind of make it hard to actually use sticks, use like a cane in that regard. But nevertheless, I kind of like snow. So yeah, writing down structures for at least The Sunken Land Begins to Rise Again and Palo Alto today is a good idea. Later today, I have to reread Cahokia Jazz so I can talk about it with friends tonight. And then I have a weekend where I have nothing to do but, hopefully get that Mormonism video finally off my chest. I feel like so ridiculous at this point about it. It's so, I keep talking about it and talking about it, and it just doesn't happen. Yeah, I mean, obviously, weather in Belgium is not that different from weather where I live. I mean, I'm like 300 kilometers from the Belgian border, so it's the general weather is not that different, I guess. And yeah, it's not exactly brilliant, but what can you do? guess we have to give it another couple of years of climate change before we can actually go out in shorts again in November. Yeah, I don't know. I need to get the Mormonism thing off the finally off my chest, and it's so frustrating at the moment. Like every time I go to YouTube to upload a video or whatever, the numbers are really really abysmal. Like I lose subscribers. The numbers of the view hours go up because obviously the just like having 2 hours of streams every day that are counted into that make like the numbers go up there, and then the subscriber numbers go down, and down and down, and obviously views for videos are really bad as well. But you know, what can you do? It's more like I feel like I've the thing I should do if having like more viewers or subscribers or whatever would be something that I'm very interested in. I'm not sure I am. It kind of changes from time to time, from day to day, and I feel like I need to find or reach a different audience because the people that you know hang out in the usual sort of like suspect, like the usual discords that watch other like epic fantasy, science fiction focused booktubers and so forth, they already know me and they have decided whether they want to watch me or not. And if they watch me, they have decided whether they want to interact with me or not. And I won't get any new people, new subscribers, new viewers from that community because there I'm a known quantity. So what I really would have to do is sort of find people that don't know me yet, that have never heard of me yet, and those are not in the epic fantasy and science fiction community at this point. And the question there is, of course, is that does that mean I have to find new topics to talk about, or does that mean I need to sort of, you know, or does that mean I have to sort of like make a Reddit account so I can post my stuff on Reddit as well? Because I'm sure that that'll help. No, nothing's really holding me back with the Mormonism video, Chad. Yeah, it's more a me general exhaustion, I guess. It's like I do the sprints and then I go to the gym, then I come back home and I'm like, okay, I should probably start working on something. I should probably record or whatever. First, of course, I take a shower because you know back in the gym and everything, and then I just get incredibly tired and have like trouble focusing. And I need to focus for these kind of videos, right? I need to know what I'm talking about, and it needs to kind of work out. And then it's like I don't know 8, 9 in the evening, and I'm like. I'm gonna do it tomorrow, and I'm just pushing it ahead. And probably there's some like insecurity in there, definitely, but it's also just like physical exhaustion at the moment. And that's I suspect is mostly like an autumn thing, and like not enough sunlight, not you know that kind of stuff. Maybe I should just use the weekend and just I don't know load up on like energy drinks or whatever, and do nothing but record videos all day. But I don't know if that's a healthy if that's a healthy choice. Hey, Britton, how you doing? Good evening to you. I did read more or less all of Dominion by Tom Holland yesterday, and it's an interesting book. It's not a bad book per se, but there's certainly there's there's this thing that he does with which I guess is inevitable if you do like large scale pop history kind of books, right? And he covers basically all of Christianity or like the roots of Christianity all the way to now, mostly to show how sort of like Christian ideas have seeped so deeply into our culture and into our background that we don't necessarily notice them anymore. And that's an important topic. That's an interesting topic. But if you cover like 2000, almost 2,500 years, it does mean you have to filter very clearly and pick and choose and so forth. And that's hard to read for someone who has certainly read detailed has detailed knowledge about some of the periods that he's covering. I'm like, oh God, you missed this and you missed this and you missed this, and sometimes he does slip into his need for cool prose does very much take over in not so good ways. And there's like a section on the quite at the beginning. There's a section on Xerxes and the Persians' sort of invasion of Greece. During the not the Peloponnesian, like the Persian Wars, the stuff that Herodotus covers, right? The whole Thermopylae kind of thing. And he has to point it out to look at because he wants to look at certain ideas from Persian and especially what's it called? Oh God, I'm blanking. Anyway, he's looking at Zoroastrianism. Is sort of what he wants to look at, and he used the phrase the collected hordes of Asia, and that's not a phrase you should use in the year 2019 when this was written. You should not talk of the hordes of Asia. That's unless you're quoting someone else who says that, and then you should put quotation marks around it. But like, don't talk about the hordes of Asia. It's not a good look. And there's a bunch of moments like that where like he slips into this like almost 19th century, almost like 18th century Edward Gibbon style, really bombastic prose, and does not make me happy, is what I'm saying here. I think it does a good job in like showing how how certain elements have sort of underpinned a lot of like not only Western ideas but also through the sort of like scientific exploration of places that were under, you know, that are built on a Christian understanding of the cosmos, how that has impacted other parts of the world as well. How, for example, the definition of and it's interesting there. It has like two really interesting examples. For example, how a early, not early modern, but like 17th century Christian understanding of physics and astronomy in a lot of ways was used by Jesuits with astronomical training, don't get me wrong, on their mission to China to sort of change the Chinese ideas of astronomy into, well, the ones that we're still using today, and how that has sort of like how that brought Christian ideas in the way that Christian ideas underpin parts of science, how that sort of in that way colonized in a way Chinese understandings of the cosmos, and then a similar one with the way that a Christian understanding what religion means, how that was impressed on different groups, people in India by the British East India Company, and how that was used, for example, in the relatively well. When it came to suppressing, banning, and so forth, the practice of sati, which, interestingly enough, was a British terminology for the suicide of widows. It's not the original uh, language, not the original terminology for it at all. And it's interesting to see that where you go like, well, this is only possible if you make a hard cut between cultural practice and personal religion and belief, and that's something that is very much a Christian idea, and not only a Christian idea but a modern Christian idea from Protestants, mostly Calvin and Lutheran times, Reformation times, in a way. How that makes it possible to tell people they can be religious and believe in the gods or God or whatever, but stop certain cultural practices because they are not part of the religion. Whereas before you bring that Christian understanding to it, those two things are not separable, actually. And that's an interesting idea, and I think he has important points there. I just wish he would have, made that clearer in a better way. So yeah, I'm glad I've read it. I am Probably not. I don't necessarily have much use for it in like any future videos, but it's, that's always the problem that with those like large scale nonfiction books that are written for a broader market. There's always the danger that if they are about a topic that you have already sort of like some academic background in, and well, I mean, I wrote term papers on the Albigensian Crusade, so and on Greek religion, and I'm probably not the target audience, is what I'm saying there. Catholics and Protestants. That's a difficult thing to say, Britain, there, because I feel there's a huge difference between, like, Catholics are Catholics, except for certain weird parts of Poland. But generally, Catholics are Catholics because you have like strict hierarchy with one guy at the top, and whatever he says is, in at least in theory, the law. Whereas Protestants is such a wide field of like stuff. Like, for example, the Lutheran Church in Germany, at least, and like most Lutheran churches, are pretty good with Catholics. They have very few problems these days. They work really well together in on like national levels, but also internationally. They're fine in a lot of ways. But when you move further out into the more radical evangelical Calvinist parts, their shit gets very different. But then again, you have those people also squabbling with Lutherans and squabbling with other evangelicals and squabbling with other not that radical Calvinist groups. So it's more like all these small splinter groups in a lot of ways. So I think that's partly the problem there. All right. Speaking of getting along, let's actually get along and do some reading and writing and answering of emails and all of that stuff that I said I would have to do. All right. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Well, I guess at 9. And I am back. All right. I did look at emails and stuff, and I did start structuring a video on Palo Alto by Malcolm Harris, and I guess that means I'll record that one later today and record one on The Sunken Land Begins to Rise Again tomorrow, and possibly the one on Cahokia Jazz on Saturday. That should be, good, I hope. But then again, you never know with these kind of books is if anyone's actually interested in them. But that's like one of those fascinating things. It's like how sort of narrow the focus on BookTube has become when it comes to books. In a lot of ways, there's like everyone is talking about the same, 5, 6, 7 books mostly, and I don't even think that's partly. I don't even think that's just to blame booktubers. I think it's very much also part of the whole like YouTube algorithm kind of thing, where if you watch a video on one book, then all the other books, all the other videos with the same book title will get recommended. So there's always an incentive to talk about books that other people also talk about, because it will lead to more people watching your video, and that kind of gives that illusion that that's a book that everyone talks about, even and that everyone is interested in, even though part of that interest is just artificially created by the algorithm. But yeah, certainly can certainly be somewhat frustrating, because you never know, is no one else, are people not reading anything else, or are people just not talking about anything else because of that system? It's one of those things that you can't ever know. But I guess I can always just make a video on some Adrian Tchaikovsky book and people will love it, I guess. Well, probably not, depending on what I say. Anyway, so I'm going to try to move on and to do some more writing, and maybe, I mean, there's like 2 more things I want to get packed into that first sort of section, chapter, whatever it's going to be. And I need to figure out how to introduce both of them, and maybe I'll find a way. Maybe I'll get like one of them introduced in the part of writing that I'll try to do today, and if I manage to get the other thing done tomorrow, then we might be done with a first chapter-ish kind of thing, and wouldn't that be nice? I mean, that's like the other thing, right? It's like since I'm not, watching author explanation videos and stuff like that, because I mean, I've looked at a bunch of them like earlier last year or this year, and I'm like, holy shit, this stuff is bad. I'm very much trying to figure out how to do writing on my own, which is possibly not the best way of doing it. But I feel it's also partly, the only way of doing it. And handling, say, dialogue is one thing that got to try it out, and then having more than having conversation between 2 people, and then suddenly having like a scene with more than 1 or 2 or maybe 3 characters, and like suddenly you have lots of moving parts that you need to sort of like structure in a way that feels natural, like when you read it, and that I think is like an interesting concept, right? And that goes both for like video, like YouTube video making, and it goes for writing, because we need to sort of like transcend that barrier in our own head, and that means structuring stuff differently, right? It's like for a YouTube video, for example, to feel natural, like someone is naturally acting like they would in real life, the person recording that video has to act out. They have to overact and overreact and say, you have to be slightly larger than life, because you're the only two things the people watching the video have are, well, visual and audio sensory. Like all the other stuff that is part of our sensory impression, usually, the room we're in, the temperature, smells, feels, the whole thing, the whole sensory package is flattened to those two sort of like signals, just the audio and the video. So you have to sort of like amplify those to make it still feel natural in a way. And that's like one of the things that I feel you can see when you look at the kind of like YouTubers that are successful. A lot of it is much more hectic, much more energetic than most people would act in real life in a lot of ways, right? But it still feels sort of natural, and I think that's the one side of this. And like when you're writing something, you also have to do the same thing, right? For something to read like natural dialogue, like it does not, it is not the same thing as just taking down or transcribing a conversation between two people, like, have a conversation, then just like make a full transcript of that. That doesn't read like entertaining or engaging, dialogue at the end of the day. So what it means to write fiction or to create videos or to do any of these kind of things means to find a way to create a semblance to create that verisimilitude of reality, and that's a difficult thing to do, because at the end of the day, as the person creating it, like if I make a video and I watch my own video, it's very difficult. It's very the same way that it's super hard to hear your own voice. Like if you record your own voice and then listen to it again, most people struggle with that because it feels wrong, and it sounds wrong. It sounds different from what you have in your head while talking. And the same thing goes for a video. It's like it feels different. It looks different from like what I had in mind when I was recording it. Like it sounds different as well. Same for writing. Like the dialogue I have in my head, when I reread it afterwards, I'm like, that's not what I wrote. And the answer is, of course, yes, it is what I wrote, but it looked different in my head. So for it to feel natural, I guess you need either to find a way, or I need to find a way to sort of distance myself enough to sort of read it as a stranger, or I need to trust someone else to read it and go like, hey, this doesn't feel right. And I think that's an interesting thing to do, I feel, for me to come to that point and understand it, I guess. If that makes sense. So I'm certainly learning a lot right now. Not necessarily good things, but I'm certainly learning them. So yeah, how did you guys do? Did you get a snack, Burton? I hope you did. And so yeah, that's the goal for the second sprints that will start in, like, I don't know, like 5 minutes, I guess. And I'll get back around 10-ish to you to talk about how much I managed to do. And we'll see how, yeah, then I go to the gym. Because of course I will. I think I have another one of these stupid, well, not stupid, but like very interesting, but also scary and alien channel membership bootcamp sessions later today. And we'll see how that goes. So yeah, let me know if there's anything else. Otherwise, I guess we can almost start the sprint slightly earlier, which would mean like if I end this like at 5 to 10, I could probably get the earlier bus and be down at the gym half an hour early. Wouldn't that be, well, would be nothing, would it? So I guess that's just what we'll do. I'll be back some few minutes before 10, and we'll talk about, how I did, how you did, all of that stuff. And I am back. How did you all do? In case there's anyone still out there. I did write some, which I guess is good. I mean, that's what I set out to do. So I did not actually get to the point where I wanted to get to, but that's because I got sidetracked, not by procrastinating, but by writing more words than I thought I would need. I guess that's another thing that I have to get used to is that it's kind of hard to know it in advance how much time it'll take, and sometimes there's this moment where you're like, oh wait, I could also put this sentence in here and this sentence and see where that goes. And I find this interesting because you often have authors talk about writing, and it's very easy to, and they tend to sort of mystify it in a lot of ways and go like, yeah, and I don't know, and the characters wanted to do this, and I just am along, and this sort of idea that you're just channeling something else. And I have a hard time believing that, because at the end of the day, people are still obviously sitting down at a keyboard or with a fountain pen or whatever in front of a piece of paper, and it's still a human being with a brain that is putting down these words, right? Um, so I feel like mystifying it too much can be can lead to other people being afraid to try writing, I guess. Can also, because there is skills in there, right? There's stuff you can learn. There are techniques you can understand, and so forth. And so I'm trying to not mystify things, but I'm certainly trying to also find ways to sort of describe what happens when I start typing stuff out, and how to do that. And maybe I'm getting there, maybe not. Who knows? But I certainly have found the situation where I'm like, yeah, and I guess we can also use this word and this word and this word. And I think it's interesting to me, because the way I am going about this is that I like how words sound. I think that's an important part that sometimes gets sort of lost in a lot of more functional writing. I think Brandon Sanderson is a good example here for a moment. Brandon Sanderson has a very functional way of writing stuff. He gets the plot out, he gets the descriptions out. It's very functional, but it doesn't sound good. Um, he doesn't write for the sound of words. It's not something that gets improved by reading it aloud. Whereas, for example, I don't know, Nicola Griffith, when you read her prose, like for example, Spear, right? It, it is a story that feels that gains by just listening to it, because of how words sound, how there are alliterations in there, there are contrasts between stuff in there. The way that works, I think, is important. And I'm certainly someone who tends to get interested in sounds of words and using language in creative ways and interesting ways. And it doesn't have to be always super purple flowy prose or whatever. For example, I think Joe Abercrombie is also really good at using language as a spoken thing, as something you listen to and not just something you read. That might be one of the reasons why the audiobooks for the first law stuff are so popular. Yes, Stephen Pacey is a good narrator and everything, I get that, but even the best of narrators can't do shit if the prose is bad. I mean, would you listen to Stephen Pacey reading, I don't know, the phone book? Probably not. Or a technical manual or anything? Probably not. It also has, the words have to be there for an actor or voice actor or whatever to then do their thing with. And that's sort of something I'm trying to sort of get towards with writing right now, is to find words that sound good. And obviously, English is not my first language, so I'm certainly struggling with that, and it may just be really bad. Who knows? Hey, Kale, I am sorry. I'm not good at fixing TVs. I'm very sorry about that. Also, I'm on the other side of the planet. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, that's sort of what I'm trying to do right now. And sometimes that leads to, you start a sentence, you're like, no, there has to be another word in there for it to sort of balance out, for it to have that atmosphere. And if I want like for a specific bit, sort of like if I want to capture sort of like a feeling or like a feeling of being in a specific place, a specific part in the world of like calm or like dreaminess or whatever, then I have to slow down, right? I have to use more words and stuff like that. And that's something I'm trying to figure out. Maybe I'm thinking too much about this. Who knows? It is, after all a mystery. So yeah, I don't have much else to say at this point in time. I'd better get my shit together and go down to the gym and do the self-destruction thing. Well, good luck with the TV fixing. I hope it'll work out, Kale. I will end this stream now, and we'll try to get the whole day started. Thanks for having me out. As always, I appreciate it, and yeah, maybe I'll manage to have a video up later today. Wouldn't that be fun?